was upset with us because you weren't there.
Oh yeah.
He was.
Yeah.
Was
Yeah.
he really?
He was.
So
I think he thought it was going to be like some
like a family?
like I don't know.
No,
They didn't mention you.
I don't know what it was. We're doing the introductions, and I'm like, as always, this is, me and Caleb, the People's Padre, we're brothers, and then he goes, "You have another brother," and then we're like, "Yeah, we know we do." Like, yeah, we know that. And then he's like, "Yeah, Nathan." Where I'm like, "Yeah, thank you for telling us that. We're aware." And I said, "But this is mine and Caleb's show."
He must think Nathan's on every show, which shows that he never watches. Because he must think that Nathan's on every show too.
Yeah, Nathan's only been on one?
Once.
This is your second one?
Yeah.
Are you nervous?
Number
Are
two.
you excited? or
3.
what?
You've been 3.
No.
You haven't been
this
on
is
here with
it.
Sanaz, with your wife?
No, not
No.
yet.
No. I haven't.
Oh, that should be fun when we do that.
We need one more chair. Or we just put Sanaz and Nathan right here. Because they have an incredibly interesting marriage.
We want to hear about it.
Here's what I was thinking about. Well,
Fascinating.
I was thinking about it. Well, because originally this morning
Nathan really struck the lottery with Sanaz.
I really did.
But originally I had this morning I text Aaron and Nathan because me and Caleb were like, "Oh, Aaron and Nathan would be good," and then Aaron can't because he took the day off and he's at Disneyland or whatever, doing family stuff, whatever. But spring break stuff or whatever, prioritizing his family or whatever over this podcast. But he said he couldn't. But then as I was driving, if they were both going to be available, I was thinking about it. And I was like, man, between me, Caleb, Nathan, and Aaron, we all married women that are just like overly, exuberantly outgoing, like just center of attention, life of the party. And we're all 4 complete introverts, for the most part. That's what I was thinking about. But then if I just think about us 3, we all married completely bombastic women in the sense of their, they just going boom, the life of the party, independent, like they just full on,
Conversation starters,
You could be in the room or not in the room. They're completely happy and content without you, type of thing. They're just like so independent, so outgoing, just, which I don't think that's always very common. You have 3 siblings that are all pretty quiet, introverted guys, secluded guys. I think we'd all be happy to be alone by ourselves for all eternity,
Oh my goodness.
Right.
And then,
I would be happy to have a wife that was alone in the kitchen for all eternity.
Oh my God.
But I didn't get that. That giving me 10 kids, but I didn't get that. So sometimes in life, you God throws you curveballs. You don't get what you want. But I was thinking too, but life would be easier for me, but it wouldn't be as interesting.
Yeah, right. It'd be very boring.
It'd be
mundane.
I wouldn't grow.
Yeah.
Enough.
Yeah.
You would grow physically if you had a wife.
There you go.
All day
There you
long.
go. Good one. I needed that comeback.
Right. Yeah, I'm happy that I'm yin and yang with Ashley because when I go to places I'm uncomfortable, I just bring her and she just becomes President John F. Kennedy.
I know. She's really good. She surprised me
She
with that
works
guest
the room.
speaker at
Yeah.
I mean, she was just on it.
What guest speaker?
For the young adult night, like in the
Oh.
office, how she
Yeah.
was just
Oh, 'cause
controlling the conversation, asking questions, talking about stuff.
Yeah.
Like, man, she's really working the room.
That's what she's
great.
That's what she's great at. That's what I bring her to all my stuff for. She's like, hey, we got this dinner, and she's like, okay, what are we doing? I'm like, you're gonna talk. I'm gonna sit there.
Yeah.
And Nate,
Lord knows that's Sanaz to me for sure.
Nathan's the most quiet of all of us, which is insane.
Yeah.
She pulls.
But
that out.
but I wouldn't call you an introvert because you're a big traveler and you kind of, you like to be in the world and
Yeah.
I think there are different types of
socializing and-
introvert. He doesn't like
yeah,
socializing.
but I don't like big like social events.
He's the
or
Great
something.
Gatsby guy. Like he likes to be in a crowded room
Yeah.
because there's more privacy in that sense. Because he could just
Like I'll
be in a
host it and then I'll
corner.
stand.
And you
at
stand
the
in the
Yeah.
corner.
He'll stand it. He'll know that his house is packed with a party and he'll be in his room. You know, like that's the type of introvert that he is. you know?
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's like, but don't talk to me. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Don't have a conversation with me. You know.
Make
That's
sure
Nathan.
others are having fun and enjoying.
Sometimes we'll be at like a group dinner, and then towards the middle of the dinner, I'll look at Nathan and say, "You've added so much to this dinner tonight," because he won't say no. But he is happy as can be. He'll probably be the guy paying for everyone's dinner. He'll
Yeah.
be the guy, you know. It's like, but in the moment, he just like,
Pastor Aaron's the same way because he'll
Oh, yeah.
sit
Yes,
in a
he is.
group and say nothing,
Oh, yeah.
but be the one like smiling because he's so happy. I'm
he's
like,
in heaven.
Yes.
Yeah.
So like,
Interesting.
when you're in
Very.
Paris and Italy and Mars and the places you like to visit, like do you like talk to people? Like do you talk to like other tourists? Do you talk to like the natives?
Oh gosh, no.
Like you
No.
so you're just like staring and
Yeah.
eating
Yeah.
and drinking.
Well, he's in the presence of busyness. That's
And
that's
shopping.
what he likes. Well, yeah, he loves shopping.
Shopping and eating. Yeah.
But like if we're like for instance, like if we go on a vacation, Nathan wants to go to the most poppin', the most popular restaurant. Nathan wants to try to get a reservation 30 days advance. He wants it to where you could barely move. You're a sardine, and yet he will spend the whole evening not saying one word and leave and go, "That was the greatest night of my life."
What
Wow.
do you think
You know,
when
like-
you're like in these
Wow.
busy spaces?
He just
and
soaks
there's
it in.
I'm just,
craziness?
I'm just soaking
You're
it
soaking
in.
it
He likes the
in.
vibe.
I
Got
like
it.
the vibe. I
Got
like
you.
being present. Like
Got it.
Pastor Aaron and I are very similar,
similar.
in that sense. Yes, very similar.
Got it.
Very
Because
similar.
I need to
but I
be
find
intellectually
enjoyment from that.
stimulated.
Well, I have to be intellectually stimulated to have a conversation. That's for sure. And having ADHD, if the conversation is bad, then I will move on, or I would just get up and walk
Right,
away.
right.
You know,
Yeah.
like that's my kind of hindrance. But I'm the opposite in the sense that Nathan knows. Like I don't like the busy
Yeah.
pop in. I actually like privacy. I like seclusion.
Yeah.
So if it's like, hey, we're going to this place and we're going to go an hour early and it's empty, I'm like, bomb. Like I'm with that all day.
Yeah.
And then the moment it starts picking up with people, I'm like, okay, well, it's time to go. Humans are here now. You know, Nathan's the
Humans
opposite.
are
You
here.
know, like, Nathan's like the opposite. Like if it's empty, like this place is dead, let's go. It's like, well, what? Were you going to dance on a table or were you like,
Yeah.
were you going to start conversating with everyone? No, not Nathan.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but Ashley and Sanaz,
Talk
oh
to
my
a tree.
gosh.
1000%.
I hate going on vacation with my wife because she leaves with 10 new friends and 10 new phone numbers. And
That's crazy.
And I'm just
Wow.
like, we'll literally be on a cruise and legitimately she'll have 10 people following her Instagram already. She'll have already shared her nail tech with someone she's met. You know, Ashley went to a big university, so if one of her competitors walks by, she's like, boo, you know, and I'm like, babe, stop. Like you're
Yeah.
embarrassing me right now. And they're like looking at each other and booing and watching a game, or I'm just like, it's the complete opposite.
Yeah.
You know, which it makes her special. You know.
Chelsea, I'd imagine you're kind of that type of a woman, right?
That's why me, Ashley, and
Yeah,
Sanaz get
you're
along.
kinda-
Yeah,
yeah.
because we're all crazy. So maybe my future husband's gonna be like mellow. I guess. Do I need
Probably.
that?
I mean, that's probably what you need. Because the thing is we bring them down to earth.
So I
You
need
know,
to be brought
like we're-
down to earth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually do agree. Because
we're
I
very
did
logical.
date somebody who was like just like me, and we butted heads all the time.
Wow.
So I couldn't do it. I'm like, I need me an introvert because I'm an extroverted introvert. I feel like because I do like being by myself. I vacation by myself. I like being alone.
Yeah, you've always
Yeah.
done it.
I-
Did you know that about her?
Always
No.
vacation
She'll
alone.
she'll fly to Mexico by
By
herself and
myself.
stay in a
For
hotel.
Really?
5 days.
I love it.
By myself.
I love it.
I really would. I just got from San Diego by myself.
I love it.
Really?
Yes, I will go to a different country by myself.
Do you like to meet people, or what do you like about it?
Yeah, when I
Or
go
the
out,
scenery?
meet other people, but no, I like being by myself.
I'm such an insecure person that if I did that, all that would go through my head is, Adam, you
people
are
think?
such a loser.
By being alone.
I'm serious. Like that's all that would play in my
What?
head. I would just
Why?
feel.
Well, if
would-
I were to travel, that's
Yeah.
the only way I like to travel.
By
because
yourself?
when I do it with my wife and my family, like I am cursed. All hell breaks loose.
Yeah.
Something bad always
Something
goes on.
bad happens, and I'm not even exaggerating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if I'm to enjoy the traveling experience, I could probably only enjoy it if I'm by myself. 'Cause
You don't have to think
I don't
about
have to worry
hosting
about
anybody,
nobody.
entertaining
Yeah.
anybody. What do they want to eat? What do they want to do? You can
Yeah.
do whatever you want to do and not ask anybody. It's glorious. You should try it.
Yeah, I
You're
can't.
not a
I
loser.
can't do that. I like being alone, but not to that degree. Not to the degree
I
that
love being alone. Oh.
Yeah, I couldn't, and I do it a lot because I travel and speak and I work with companies, and so I'm by myself 3-4 days at a time sometimes speaking. If it's a business thing, I go by myself. If it's a church thing, I bring someone with me. But that, like, I'll sit there for 2 or 3 days and think to myself, like, I don't have
Am I
anything
okay?
going on with my life. You know, like, what is happening right now?
Wow.
And then I feel like and I think other people are like that. People that I trust and people that I could be myself with, I love to be around them as much as possible.
Yeah.
And then around just innate natural sense, but I like being alone majority of the time. Like, I appreciate that. I just don't like I
Vacationing.
wouldn't see Yeah,
It's not necessarily vacation where you're going
because
exploring.
then you're
I just
eating
need
by
a rest.
yourself, and then you're
I love it.
yeah.
I love it.
If I saw you in a room during a thing, I think, man, I'm so sorry for that girl. Somebody get that girl a husband. What is happening?
I'll
You know,
take
Yeah,
Like
you
that.
usually don't see that a lot.
yeah.
But I think
People
you
like-
see it
do-
more
do-
and more.
more
See, like
often.
but see, I'm similar in that sense, but I'm not an extrovert like you. But like I would see someone as like confident in who they are with the ability to go and
By yourself.
travel by themselves and comfortable with themselves and
Mm-hmm.
find enjoyment
Yeah,
in.
I think anyone that can do that has to be very confident. I'm just saying I'm not. So, me on my end seeing it, I think that person very sad. What are they going through?
Well, let me just say
But
that.
I leave with a
let me-
lot of friends because I am an extrovert. So I'll make friends with anybody like if I go travel, I'm
Yeah, you have
leaving
no
knowing
problem
Right,
talking
right,
with
no
someone.
problem
right.
talking
Yeah.
to people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's work.
And you're probably
It's
you're probably
not.
like a people watcher, huh?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, I can see you being a people
Yeah.
watcher. Now, I need to say though, with all this talk, we need our serious church intercessors to be praying if I am to go on an Israel trip that maybe we have planned.
Yeah.
Because I don't have a good track record when it comes to travel.
Oh.
We
Wait,
need
what's
we need-
happened? Because it seems like you're scarred.
I can't talk about it.
Scarred.
It'll take way too long.
Okay.
But every trip that I've ever done, something horrific has happened. And so we
Yeah.
really need people to be praying.
Would
or
you really go to
this is
Israel?
your chance to back out if you want to
worst
go
case
with me.
scenario, worst case scenario, you go to Israel and the Lord takes you up.
I was gonna say you go to
We need that plane
worse
check
to go to
before we go on it.
No, yeah, we've been in talks. We think we want to do a Beyond the Letter Israel tour. It'll be twofold. Number one, anyone who's a fan of the show will be able to come and join us. It's going to be me and Caleb going on. I'll obviously be leading it because Caleb doesn't know anything about the land of Israel. But Caleb, my pursuit in life is to make Caleb pro-Israel. And so not just the people of Israel, but the
I'm
land
not-
itself.
What do you mean by
know?
that, though? Hey,
believe
I
you
love
are,
Israel's.
You know? Yeah.
I love all people. I love Israel's.
Yeah. Israelis. But it's my goal for him to be like, I love this country as a Christian. I believe in this country. That is the goal. And so I'm on an expedition to take him and people on Beyond the Letter to
When?
Israel. I think we're hoping for fall next year. So we're finalizing the dates.
Nice.
And then we'll put it out in the atmosphere. Some of it is we'll film content, some podcast stuff. And then it's going to be, really dedicated towards those who like more conversation, intellectual discussion, learning. It'll be that type of trip with just a lot of fun. We're obviously going to sites. So I convinced Caleb to be open to do it. It's just a matter of his trepidation of trips always going bad.
Travel.
And then obviously we'll bring some camera crew and film it and, see what kind of content we
fun.
get.
I'm
So
down.
we'll see what you've been to Israel like 9 times. So
No, 3.
I think it'll be fun.
Israel with Pastor Caleb. You got to go.
Good stuff.
I'm
Let's do
down.
it.
I'm down.
It's going to be the best experience.
He wants to see the Catholic churches. That's what he wants to see.
Well, the Catholic churches, and I hear Palestinians are very, very hospitable people, and I'm
they are.
looking
They're very
forward.
nice.
I'm looking forward to getting to know some Palestinians and having some
still-
not matzah. That's the other guys.
Yeah.
Some some good food. Some good
I have
food.
not had
Some good
hummus
food. Hummus and
since we left Israel.
Pita.
Really?
I have it like 6 times a week.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah,
Really?
probably. Yeah,
I
something like that.
just-
4 to 5 times
I
a week.
go through something after Israel where I need a couple months.
Here's the thing about Caleb. Caleb is always the fan of the underdog. That's it. So there are underdogs in Israel that Caleb
Will root for.
is going to root for.
Yeah.
He's, in any circumstance, Caleb has always been the one that goes for the underdog.
Yeah.
Always. So, I'm going to try to convince him that, everything's fair in Israel. I've told this to a few of my friends who have organizations in Israel. They're like, we love it. Bring your brother. We want to try to convince him that it's not what the news says.
But convince me of what though? That's the thing. Like convince me of what? Like what?
I think that there's not apartheid in Israel. That it's not so biased in the sense of how Israelis are just bullies to Palestine and stuff like that. It's just trying to show a much more balanced view of what it's like living in a country.
Well, like I said,
that.
my I don't want people to get the wrong impression. My biggest gripe with Israel is the overemphasis on Israel. That's just my biggest gripe.
In Christianity.
And how just how Americans overemphasize support for Israel and mainly at the expense of its own people. And that's like the one thing that they can seem to unite on, as opposed to other more pressing, serious issues that are going on in our country. That's my biggest gripe with Israel. And just the funding of these wars, these Middle Eastern wars that are horrible. And we've lost everyone, and it's left Arabic countries
I thought about
devastated.
This late. Did you hear what happened in Ukraine with the Russian Orthodox Church?
No.
Did you guys hear? Well, the Russian Orthodox Church is one of the oldest churches in existence. It's right up there with Coptic, Ethiopians, Catholics. It's old, 2,000 years old. Well, obviously, in all of Eastern Europe, there's tons of Orthodox Russian churches. Just as happens to be, some of the biggest ones are in Ukraine. Well, the Ukrainian government has deemed, since they are Russian Orthodox priests, they're not all Russian. Most of them are Ukrainian, but their denomination is Russian Orthodox. That they have deemed that they are a threat against national security, and so they've placed some of the biggest Russian Orthodox churches in Ukraine, all the priests under house arrest, and have started closing some of their churches down to say people can't come here because they don't want any of the Russian Orthodox priests, to pass down information to the Russian government concerning where people are located or whatever. And you also, sometimes you hear confessions, so you know certain things and all that stuff like that. So the most famous Russian Orthodox priest is currently arrested in house arrest, and he has a house arrest anklet, and they're monitoring what he preaches and he teaches in Ukraine. And I thought to myself, that's pretty crazy. Imagine here in America, if we went to war with Italy and all Roman Catholic priests were arrested.
Yeah.
I just thought that's a big leap into, and they didn't really have as far as I understand, I've seen, they didn't have a lot of proof that these guys were actually, these Russian Orthodox priests were threats to Ukraine. But given the war demeanor, and this is where I get to the point, is I thought it was an interesting conundrum, because what do you put first? Do you put your Christian allegiance, like these are Christian brothers and sisters, and they're now currently being deviated and plotted and house arrested, or do you put the politics first, because America has told us we're Team Ukraine, right? And whatever we're Americans, so whatever America is, theoretically, you're supposed to be all team whatever America chooses their ally and not, and stuff like that. So you think to yourself, who would be my ally? If a Russian Orthodox priest called me, said, hey, would you ally against me to speak about what's happening with me in Ukraine? But all of a sudden, if I do that now, I'd be deemed not American, It's an interesting
Well,
conundrum.
I
you know?
ally with the movement that aligns most closely to my values, and so Ukraine is a corrupt country, and so the Russian church aligns more with my values of existence, of how I interpret the world, and so I'm going to side with the church, period. As far as as far as my prayers, as far as my if I decide to give support or whatever.
Whatever that would look like.
But
Yeah,
I'm
right.
going because Ukraine's a corrupt country. Just look at the history. I'm not.
It's been listed
it's
as
corrupt,
one of the most
you know,
corrupt
and
countries
it's
in the
got
world.
it's totally different than other areas in the world. It used to be a part of Russia, and we invaded it in 2014, and we put up weapons and everything at their border, Russia's border. So it's no surprise that they're trying to take over the territory because the West is a threat to them.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
anyways, but
Yeah.
we can have this riveting conversation more. But I don't think.
I don't know if I have much.
I don't think our
They're like, so are we going to go back to fashion and
let's
traveling? and
let's go to
vacation?
something that's more something we all can be included
You
on.
want to know what we need? We need a full episode of you guys, because this would be great, of you guys giving advice to men, single men, who need help. And this is why it's on the top of my head. Okay?
Yeah, good
because
idea.
one of our pastors.
We'll give it right now. Ask it.
This is what happened. One of our pastors in the service a couple days ago was in a female pastor had a conversation with these two young men, and they're like, where are all the women at? It's real hard in these streets. We can't find a woman who actually loves God and, is right and mature and all these things. And they're complaining in a church full of single women that they can't find somebody. So this female pastor is giving them insight and showing them things that they didn't see about themselves. Like, are you fully healed from your last relationship? Do you have your stuff going on? Because they had a laundry list of things that they wanted a woman to have.
Got it.
But she asked, well, what do you have? And it was crickets. All that to say, their response was, man, we need to have more conversations like this. Like, we need somebody to come alongside and have conversations like this with us because we need help. All that to say, single men need help. What's fascinating to me is they say
funny,
there's a famine, but I'm like, women feel like there's a famine.
Yeah, that's
You
what
know
I'm saying. That like both
where-
sexes have the same complaints about the
Yes.
opposite sex.
So it's so cool
Yeah.
to see like you have this passion to want to teach your young kids, about affection or whatever it may be to become a man. But what would you say to those single men right now who might not even have you guys in their life and need help? Mm-hmm. Not just in dating, but in relationships and life, period.
Well, it seems, it seems that, it seems that the men's complaint that I hear on the men's side of things is that women aren't traditional enough, and so this is where you get like passport bros who go to other countries to find a traditional wife and a woman. Especially divorcees, men. So the men have their own specific complaints about modern day women, and the women also have specific complaints about modern day men. So to get more clarity, because I'm not in the feminine space of what their complaints are towards men, what are women complaints about men, specifically why they can't find a good man or why they can't find the man that they want to marry
I think it goes
or
back to like
commit with.
confidence. Like a lot of women are trying to guess, like, is this guy into me? We've come across a lot of men who are too insecure to even go and ask a woman out on a date. And it could be because of their fear of rejection or whatever the case may be. But a lot of times it's like the women are now put in position to initiate something for the man to feel comfortable to then take the lead. So not every woman is confident doing that, though. A lot of women are just more traditional and no, I want a man to approach me, but the men are also in that same position where like, well, no, I need to have a green light. I need to know she's going to say yes. So you have two people who are afraid to initiate anything. That's the biggest thing. Another thing that I think is a huge complaint, and I heard this on a podcast the other day. These two men were talking about how intelligent women and women that have a lot of money is not attractive. It's not attractive at all.
Okay, I know why they
women-
say that. Yeah.
Why?
I know why they say that.
I want to know why.
Well, it goes back to men and women are different in what they want, and
Do
so
you want us to be dumb and broke?
no, that's not what it is. It's just that women want a certain thing, and they're biologically geared towards wanting certain attributes in a man, and men are biologically geared to want certain attributes in a woman. Men are biologically made to be the provider, the protector, the leader of the home, and the initiator. And so the man doesn't want primarily a working class woman, a successful woman, a career driven woman. That's not important to a man to the level that a woman was biologically made to seek that in a man. Because throughout human history and the way God made us, the woman was designed to be provided for by the man. She's the weaker vessel, which means that she's physically weaker, and so she needs the stronger man to provide physical protection. God designed it to where the man is supposed to be the spiritual prophet, priest, and king of the home, and to lead his wife in that regard. And so a career-driven woman, a college graduate, degree woman, that's not the priority for a man. A man is looking for a woman that can submit in a positive sense of the biblical form of submission, where she's not going to disrespect her husband. She's on a daily basis. She's not going to belittle him. She's not, all of these things. He wants a woman that's submissive and that respects him. And the statistics are pretty crazy, though. Like when you look at how nowadays it's like 75% of marriages, divorces are initiated by women. And specifically, if you're a college graduated woman, you're even more likely to initiate that divorce.
Really?
Yeah. And so there is a lot of statistics that are in support of kind of what men by nature desire in a woman. And like I said, it's pretty simple for a man. He wants a woman that respects him. The priority is respect, that can bear him children, and that can fulfill his needs physically, and is also, an emotional support for him. Because women excel in EQ, where men are designed to mainly excel in IQ, intellectual quotient, and women excel in emotional quotient, high EQs. And God made us that way so that we complement each other. That's not to say that some men aren't emotionally advanced and some women are intellectually advanced, but so we want a woman in saying that is thinking that a man should want what she wants, but it's not that way biologically. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
What's your 2 cents, Nathan?
Well, I agree. I agree for the most part in the sense that just how men are designed. Every attribute you listed off is something that obviously I desired in my life. However, back to what you were saying early on, just kind of like where kind of men struggle and where women desire out of the men. So for me being the introvert that we have discussed, so when I met Sanaz, kind of what pushed me into the relationship was knowing that my friend told me that she thought that I was a nice guy and that I was cute. Okay. So that was like, okay, for someone who's never dated before, but now desiring to be in a relationship, and it was serious at that point in my life based on where I was, that was kind of the push that I needed. And then after that, I became fully confident in everything that I desired for the relationship. Yeah. Once I started talking to her, and then as it progressed and dating, and obviously leading to a proposal. So I was confident because I was confident in who I was at that time in my life. I was confident, obviously, in my faith and my relationship with the Lord, a God-fearing, seeking man. And so there were standards, though, that I desired in a woman as well, just as much as I would hope she desired in a man. Mm-hmm. So for the introvert, for me, though, that was kind of the push that I needed. But once that happened, then I became fully confident in taking the lead, which is what women are saying.
What you say versus what you you got. Like,
well, so here's the so like with like I desired a woman that would be able to provide for would give me children as I desire to be a father. I would want a woman that would cover our household, support our household with needs of cooking dinner as needed for the family, and so those were desires of me. However, I found that Sanaz being educated, having her own home, being stable was very attractive for me. But I don't want to say that I'm more confident than anybody, but there's a security though that I had because where I was already in my life. So those attributes in her, I found very attractive. So once we started dating and knowing that she desired kids and she'd have no problem leaving her career if that's what God desired and I desired, and to stay at home and raise kids, okay, that's wonderful. However, if she said, I really want to walk through this career path still, that would be something we would obviously navigate and talk through. But she was definitely on board. Like, I have no problem, having a home cooked meal for you when you come home. I have no problem, raising children and giving you children and desiring. Obviously, I have no problem meeting your needs in X, Y, and Z. So all those things lined up, which is wonderful and been a blessing. But definitely from where you're saying is the fact that she was on her own and educated with her master's and owned her own home and all of that, I found that very attractive personally.
Got it. Yeah.
I think it's the question of priorities. Like, what's the most important things to a man and a woman? Like, to me, that was the emphasis that I was making, because I'm not saying I would like, it detracts from a woman if she went to college or whatever. I'm just saying we live in the world that we live in, and we live in a certain culture.
If you live in if you live in other countries that aren't the great American dream, what your surroundings is what you find attractive, and what your necessities are is what you find attractive. And so I think if you're not in an American custom or this grandiose custom, then you're in another country. Your first kind of thinking, if you meet a man, you're thinking, what is his work ethic like? What is his ability to provide? Because not every country has government funding, maternity leave, and all this stuff.
Right.
Like, so if you're having kids, well, I'm checked out for a certain. There's no daycare and preschool and all these conveniences that we are so blessed to have. So I think a primary thought for many women, if you're in Mexico or South America or Philippines, East Asia or anything, is like, okay, if I'm looking for a guy, I need a guy who's going to be able to hold this house down financially, so that, because majority of people want kids, and it's biologically in tune. You really wouldn't want a man to fully raise kids, by himself. They're going to become emotionless, robots who have no empathy if a man fully, raises a child a majority of the time. So the biological makeup is for the mom to have as much time as possible with a child who's growing and rearing. So if you're in another country, you're going, well, the first thing I'm finding attractive is
can you provide?
Can he pay his bills, or can he supply a farmstead, and is he a farmer?
Don't you think that's the same here, though? Because I've heard you say in the past that it doesn't matter how good the man is. If he's a brokey, you're not interested.
I did say that.
Right. So that's
but I think at the same time, most the women here are saying, but I could do it without him. I can do it without him. I can have a kid. I can have a kid without him. I could support myself without him. I could do it all. I could do it all.
Oh, right.
So I think because the detriment of environment is, to me, what supersedes and what becomes attractive. So I think Chelsea, at the end of the day, she said, whether I have a guy or not, I'm gonna be fine, and I could even have a kid and I will be fine, and I'm not worried about that. To me, is another country. If they have a kid and they don't have a husband, it's like, I'm destined for poverty.
Yeah.
You're talking Thailand and Philippines. Now you're selling yourself. You're selling your children because you're a single mother, and you can't do this on your own. And so by very nature, you could have a guy that is less physically attractive in another space, but yet he can provide, and therefore as a woman, I think they can switch. It's almost like if you've noticed, if you ever go to college and you live in this bubble and you think certain girls and guys are attractive, and then you leave the college and you go in the real world and you go, why did I think that person was attractive? Because you were in a bubble. Your attraction changed based off of your environment, you know? And so to me, where you're at and how you perceive what's important is what you define as the initial attraction and what it is that you're searching for. And so I think to me, men and women in our context in America have very subverted and perverted views of what they're told attraction needs to be.
Right.
And our environment and our bubble has acclimated our eyes to fix on certain, to me, just very certain social media, outwardly, not just appearance, but just outwardly, things that it just really in the real world, in a real relationship, are not the first things that you lean on.
Well, I want to say this too, because masculinity is demonized, and this to the point why men don't have the confidence to approach women. A lot of it is because of our society has made them feel like they're evil for being men and for having masculine desires, and they're afraid to approach women because of the Me Too atmosphere, and they may be afraid that a woman will accuse them of assault or some sort of assault or whatever. And so whereas before this was in our culture in the 90s, the 80s, the 70s, as a man, that was the expectation. If you were interested in a relationship, you take the initiative, you approach the woman. That was just, but now, because masculinity is demonized, a lot of men, they've just been emasculated.
So, but I think that's
and
what culture says, because I know a lot of single women, and the single women I know, none of them give off that impression to me that a man can't make the approach.
I would love for a man to.
And I've never
approach.
had a conversation with a young single man that said, "Bro, that girl's so pretty, but if I approach her, she might Me Too me."
Well, that's what I'm saying. The real world is different than propaganda. That's what I'm saying. Like I agree with you. Like I think it's good you added clarity to that, because men should be encouraged by that. Young men should be encouraged by that, because oftentimes the real world doesn't reflect the Twitter world or
I think
the media world
or
the movie world or Hollywood world. And that's important to keep in mind. The real world is different than the propaganda that we're being shoved through our throat through media and through these other atmospheres that are trying to emasculate men, trying to
Most young men that I talk to, much of the issues that I see with them in their singleness is a lack of plan for life. That's one of the biggest things. And I've been kind of working on this sermon series that I want to do, but I want to do it well. But it basically parallels this conversation, and the sermon series would be called Sweat and Pain, and almost off of the no pain, no gain kind of thing. But if we go back to Genesis, Adam and Eve, part of their disobedience of what their discipline was God said he would place on man and women the sweat of the man's brow in farming, and then for the woman, pain in childbirth.
Right.
So you have sweat and pain, and to me, the values are revealed within the discipline that God gave us, and they're actually the two things in society today that we reject the most. Women reject motherhood as the greatest blessing to ever exist.
Wow, that's really good.
And men reject
hard physical
labor,
Wow.
and they want to be YouTubers, and they want to
retire at 50.
And no hate. I know we got a lot of people that listen, and Corey will probably TikTok, but all the men that I see on TikTok are these Christian men, are these sexy, glossy-eyed, almost wearing mascara Christian men, and they got a ring light on them, and they're like, "Let's pray." and all the women are like, they're like and it's like, because for the man, and not many, I know some of those guys, I don't know many of those guys, but some of those guys are genuine hard workers, but others have just fell into this thing of I'm just gonna look pretty, and I'm gonna appeal the algorithm, and no sweat equity at all in life. And when I talk to young men, I'm like, man, tell me your plan for life. Tell me, if we lived in ancient Mesopotamia, which is most of the Old Testament, if you were to be a farmer, you could not accidentally stumble upon farming. You had to pick a land, you had to pick a cultivation, you had to do the work every day to take care of it, to water it. If the sun came out, you had to be able to shade the things.
Well, can I say this? I got to say this because it's such a great point that young men need to hear, and that is this. Don't pursue the girl, pursue the career and the calling in your life, the purpose in your life, and the girl will naturally result. And that's the problem. That's where you get a lot of simps and you got a lot of beta men, is because they are obsessed with pursuing the girl, and they're not pursuing the purpose, and the girl will naturally follow. Because I think to myself,
wait,
let me say this.
No, I'm just playing.
I say this. How did an introvert like myself, right, that would have not taken the initiative to find my wife, she took the initiative. What was she so attracted to me about? Well, the main thing is I had tremendous purpose and drive. I knew when I was 18 years old what I wanted to do. I wanted to go into ministry. I got my 4-year degree. I was the youngest man in seminary. I graduated the shortest, 2.5 years, 3 years. And so I was a driven man, and my calling, my purpose was more important to me than the woman. Yeah. And so I think that's one of the key things for young men to.
Well, I think, and a lot of the counseling that I do, a lot of couples who get married or get together before a guy can stabilize a family, that's where a lot of their marital issues come from, because the woman will look at the man and say, because unfortunately love is not just enough to keep you together and a reason to get, but a lot of people will do that. They'll say, let's get married because we love each other. Right. And then the guy will say, and we'll wrestle through this future together. Right. And I'm not saying it can't work. I'm not saying, but a lot of the marital counseling I do, the moment they start having kids, the man says, biologically, he says, okay, wife, it's your job to take care of the kids. And then she, by natural standards, go, okay, if I'm going to take care of the kids, you make sure we at least have a couch and a bed to sleep on. But he's like, I don't know how to do that. Right. And she's like, okay, so I'm supposed to know how to take care of these kids, but you're living with your mother. You married me. You knocked me up while you were living with your mom.
Oh, of course.
You couldn't pay your bills. You couldn't afford anything. You couldn't afford an apartment. You couldn't afford a car. But I loved you, and so I got with you. I married you. We had a kid, or we did whatever. And now you're not holding up your end of the bargain. Yeah. Because you can't, and a woman, she wants a nest. Like, that's biological.
A man that cannot provide should not be in a relationship, period.
So I think that's part of the, I think that's part of the, now to me, when I'm talking to young men, that's they're like, hey man, I want to be in a relationship. I want to be married. I literally did a coffee with a young man yesterday. Yeah. He said, Pastor Adam, I feel like I have a wife. I called it for a wife in my life. How do you think I should move forward with that? I literally told him, we've been talking. We're like, okay, well, tell me what your job looks like. Tell me where are you at? Where are you living? Oh, I got my own apartment. This is my career. I said, okay, tell me what your faith looks like. Tell me your relationship with the Lord. We're going through it. I go, man, you're strong. You're strong. You're going to have a healthy relationship, because it's not just about being in a relationship. It's about being in a healthy relationship. Yeah. Something that lasts the test of time, something something that creates a legacy for your children. And, that's what you're shooting for. And obviously we don't always attain that, but to me, that's the goal, and you want to have the picture. And so for a young man, if he's like, well, I just love this girl, and yet I don't know anything. I don't have a plan for my life. I don't even know how to fulfill that plan. Yeah. So that'd be like in ancient Mesopotamia, a young man coming up to me and saying, hey, I'm going to go marry a woman. And I say, hey, show me your farm. And he's like, I don't have one. Well, I don't have one. It's like, well, how are you going to take care of her?
Usually it was the father that they had to ask the father permission, and the father had to hand her off. And one of the ways that they did that, the father, and I think we need to bring this back along with child labor. I think we need to bring back the what do they call it when the father hands off the daughter?
That was in a previous episode.
What do they call it? A dowry. Yeah. No, or not dowry. Yeah. Well, no. When the arranged marriages, we need to start arranged marriages again. Where
we've had friends in the church who have had arranged marriages.
Okay. My dad dad wants to do an arranged marriage.
Oh,
for me.
right.
We've
Well,
had a lot of
he
couples in our
really
church
wants,
with
like,
arranged.
his-
Invite
genuine
him
about
as a
it.
guest. He could have some great stuff
You're
to say.
right. Sanaz's parents were arranged, right?
Yeah, they,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
I
I'm
didn't know that.
Well,
Yes.
well, the positives of an arranged marriage, like Adam said, is the father's going to have his daughter's best interests in mind first and foremost, and he's going to be able to vet that man. He's going to be able to make sure all his ducks are in order, that he can provide for that man, because the father has invested 18 years into this girl, ideally, and he loves her and he's invested in her, and so the father, more than anybody, would have the best discernment. And well, I'm
Yeah.
just saying historically,
if
this
he
is
was,
how it happened.
If he was an appropriate father.
No, yeah,
for
I'm
sure.
not, it's
Right,
a minority.
right.
Okay, I'm kind of fantasizing. This
Yeah,
isn't. I know
yeah,
this isn't
you're-
going to happen.
you're in a real fantasy
but it's
world.
an emphasis, though. It's an
Yeah.
emphasis. Listen, man, if you cannot provide for your wife, you should not even be in a relationship. Number one, and on the other end of the spectrum, if a woman is not willing to bear children and to provide a nest for the man, then she does not deserve a marriage.
Yeah.
From a traditional biblical perspective, obviously the world has standards that
Yeah.
we're talking about the ideal biblical.
Yeah,
how
yeah.
does God
Yeah.
define the best
Right.
form of marriage?
Yeah.
And it's because I think if you don't have plans to have children, you shouldn't even get married. Like, marriage is for children. In my perspective. And so the Bible says singleness is better than marriage. The Bible says that it's better to remain single than even to be married. But if you're burning with passion, meaning you have to have sex, get married. And so the implication of that is, if you want children, get married. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to just these traditional biological values. Women want a man that's going to provide security, a roof over their head, and a purpose and a calling.
Yeah, I think
and
when you're,
a man
I
wants.
think when you're single, there's the social media view of what a relationship is, and then when you're actually married, and you go, okay,
Right.
when do I find my wife most attractive, and when does she find me most attractive?
Mm-hmm.
And generally, it goes back to very Paleolithic ways that the Lord,
Traditional, yeah.
biological ways that it's like my wife finds me most attractive when I am excelling in our family and
Yeah.
being able to her not worry about the boys and her not worried about her and what
Right.
we're doing and how we're doing it, and she does have a part to play in that financially and through her work, but I carry most of the burden, and
Yeah, right.
she appreciates
Right.
that. And then for
Yeah.
me, the way that I see her love our boys, care for our boys, to me, it's not in just, some red lipstick. Like, that's fun every once in a while, that I'm like, yeah, I want you to get dolled up and us have a romantic night. But my genuine regular attraction to her comes from her embracing her femininity, her
Right.
embracing her motherhood.
Yeah. Right.
And if you would have
Yeah.
told me at 23, hey, when you start dating Ashley, in the future, what you're going to find her most attractive is the way that she consoles your son when
Yeah,
he falls
yeah.
off his bike. I'd
Yeah.
be like, no,
Right.
her body
Right,
is what,
right, right,
like,
right,
no,
right, right,
or
right.
or the way, whatever,
Right.
it's like, but now, 10 years into it
Yeah.
with kids, you're like, yeah, my environment has changed my view, which is much more biological,
Right.
in the sense of how she views me and how I view her. Because as you age, you generally get less and less attractive. So if everything is built on just very vain aspects of things, or just what we think social media has dictated to us, then you do, and I do a lot of couples counseling, I do a lot of premarital counseling, and a lot of the top reasons for divorce are finances. I mean, that is a top reason. So for me, if I was talking to a woman and it's like, hey, what is a top essential thing I should look for in a man? I would say his financial prowess. How he handles money, how he spends it, what he does with
Yeah.
it, where it's at, where his plan is for it financially. He may not have it now, but do you practically see that he has the work ethic that he's doing that? Like, where is he? What, if
Yeah.
part of it is like, what's his age? Is he 21? Then okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
obviously there's room for it, but
Yeah.
if he's in his 30s, like, hey, if he's in his 30s and he's not working right now and he hasn't worked for years and he's staying at home, I'm telling you right now that is an attribute that's going to go into your marriage.
Oh yeah, it'll
and
kill
so
it.
Absolutely.
and so
Yeah.
heavily
Yeah.
weigh that.
yeah.
You
Watch
know, and so. I mean, but a lot of girls be like, no, isn't that vain? Isn't that, what vain is saying is first he's got to be a 9 and 10 in order for me to go to coffee with him. That's what's vain. What's vain is he needs to drive a BMW in order for me to go out with him. That's what's vain,
Right.
but to see that there's a capacity in this space today that he's working construction, the dude works his butt off,
Right.
and he,
Yeah.
whatever it is, it don't have to be this.
He doesn't even have to make as much as her, but as long as he's putting in the work,
you're gonna want to see that because you're
Hard
gonna
worker,
have
yeah.
times where roles in the family shift, and someone's gonna have to really focus on kids if that's part of the plan, and you want to make sure that you guys are aligned. And I have a whole thing. We're doing in our church, we're gonna be doing a couple sprint soon, and we're gonna go into 5 things that me and Ashley talk about, and
the
stuff
thing
like
is
but-
that here's the thing though, people need to understand, being single, you will live an easier life. And that's one of the benefits that Paul describes. Be single so that you can devote yourself fully to Christ, so you don't have the worries of the world, as he talked about, being married. And so there is a sense in which the moment if you decide to get married, you are making your life harder.
Yeah.
Period. So be ready for that. Expect that. Don't think, oh, my life's going to be easier. I get to have sex with every day, and I get to, guilt-free sex, and it's just all going to be roses and butter. Your life will be harder. If you want an easier life, remain single.
Yeah.
Your life will be harder.
I mean, that's work,
and we are meant. Sorry, but the fallen world, people need to understand this. This life is meant to be hard, and there are moments of sunshine and enjoyment that you get out of it. But for the most part, the result of the curse, like you said, is for men to till the soil, and for women to deal with these dang kids. And that adds
American society
hardness to life. If
American
you are single,
society has made,
you can work
it much
part time,
more difficult.
retire at 50, be single your whole life, work part time. You have an easier life. You don't have to work the soil as much, so to speak.
Yeah.
You don't have as much obligation.
I have a question for you guys. Over here. You guys all got married at different stages of life.
Yeah.
And so Pastor Caleb, Pastor Ad, each of you I noticed have fully in different places of life. What are the pros and what are the cons of when you got married, when you got married in your context? What would what's the perfect scenario, but what was your scenario and what were the pros and cons of that? Because I think that's an interesting perspective. Because
that's a good question, Jermaine.
Great question.
Yeah.
Because you got married 21, not a dollar to your name.
I
have
the
first
most
9 months. I have the honeymoon baby.
Yeah,
baby.
I would. If I were to advise my son, I'd tell him do it differently than I did. Because I believe, I think first of all, as a man, you need to have enough financial stability to provide a roof over your wife's head, not be dependent on her, and have a roof over her head, and provide for her, which I did not have. I didn't have a penny to my name. I was like, I had like this like extremist, like missionary mindset that was like, God's going to provide. I'm going into ministry and seminary, and the God is going to rain down money from heaven.
She's sitting there like an Amish. Like,
yeah, well, actually, that's the thing. Like, she worked. She's the one that funded.
Yeah, she made most of the money, right?
And she continues to be a hard worker. But she's also a great traditional woman. She's a great cook. She cooks every night. She's a great mother. But anyway, so I would say I married too young, and most men when they're 22, which is when I got married, is not going to be financially able to provide. So if I were to advise my boys, I would say late 20s in our current culture, in our current climate, don't even think about marriage until you're older than 25. Don't even think about it. Spend the ages of 18 to 25 saving money, building your career, focusing on yourself, just focusing on yourself. Yeah. Don't even get bogged down. Go on dates, have female friends, but don't even think about marriage or long-term commitment until you're at least 25 and you're more built up as a man and your brain is fully developed. You're just more mature. You're more wise. So that's
Yeah.
the main lesson that I would give. You know, I married young, and my marriage has had struggles and challenges that I didn't have to have simply because I married so young.
Yeah.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, I married at 28, so kind of opposite of Caleb in
Yeah.
that sense. So I was 28. I was done with my graduate school. I owned my own home. So, you know, kind of what in agreement with Caleb was saying though, like I knew my calling.
And
I
Sanaz
knew
is 5 years older than you, right?
And Sanaz
so
is 5 years
she had her
older,
own
so she
home.
was already
You guys met. She was
well
in her
past
30s.
me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she was 32. So we both were similar in that sense. She had a passion and a career that she was working in school counseling. I knew my calling. I was going into education, but I knew there was a greater calling to go into ministry. So kind of like Caleb, I knew what I wanted to do. I knew where God was taking me. So I had, you know, confidence in that. So meeting Sanaz and then getting married, of course, opposite of like Caleb, all those struggles that if we did it younger were off the table. Financially, there
Yeah.
was stability in our bank account. We were coming in with assets together. So a lot of that initial struggle was off the table.
Did you guys prenup?
We don't have a prenup. We don't have a prenup.
What's your opinion on prenups?
Intuitive.
You can see Pastor Kinney
Yeah.
on the prenup question.
By the way,
from-
Sanaz is the rich one in their relationship. If no one's ever put it two and two to go.
My
she got
advice,
that
if
Persian
you're
family
a
money.
man older than 25 and you have significantly more assets than the woman you're marrying, consider a prenup because there is a 75% chance she will divorce you and take everything.
Caleb
But
has the trauma model.
That's only
what you
that's
call the
only if you
trauma
have
model.
assets. But that's only if you have way more assets than she does. No, it's serious. It's wisdom.
I think it's
like,
fair.
If I set my son down and he had a house, he had a car, he was a millionaire, and he was going to marry a woman with nothing. And you don't know. Like statistics are statistics.
Well,
I have to
think
look
it's
at
the
it and say
same-
there's 75% chance this woman will divorce you and and she can take all of your stuff in 2 years.
Well, I don't think it's just gender specific. Like the girl I was engaged to, you know, many years before I met Ashley, she was worth $10 million. And so
No, it's not.
I would
It's not. You're right.
I would have thought
You're
it
right.
was
A woman,
completely
I would say
appropriate
the same thing.
If her
woman,
dad,
I would say the same
if her
thing.
dad met
Yeah.
with me and he said, "I busted my butt for 25 years,
Yes,
to
I
pass
totally
this down
agree.
to my daughter,
It's
you know,
not
if
a
you want to
sex,
marry
yeah,
her,
thing.
you need a prenup because
Yeah.
you're not going to just take this $10 million." I mean, I would think that that's pretty appropriate.
Yeah.
But and you can add so many caveats to prenups. You could say from starting this date, as it
But
moves
we are
forward,
living
it's
in a
you
culture
guys, you know,
where it's
divorce
more
craze
likely
culture.
that the woman will divorce. We are living in
Yeah.
a culture, and that's important wisdom
Yeah.
to take in mind that it's 75% now divorces are initiated by women.
Which is why I'm
So-
writing a book called Divorce Proof.
When is that coming out, by the way?
I'm writing it right now, and so it should be out February of 2024. So
Wow.
There we
It's
go.
gonna be good
We'll be
stuff.
having all
There
the
we
listeners
go.
sign an NDA.
It's gonna be
Yeah,
good
right,
stuff.
right,
I'll
right.
interview Adam like I did with the magazine.
some of the guys who's in here who read my chapter summaries. I've sent it to a few people. You guys
Chip
read
boy?
you read my chapter summaries? What do you think? Is it going to be pretty good? It's going to be a good
Amazing.
book.
Absolutely riveting.
Thank you. I'm
That'll be
excited for
critics
it.
say absolutely riveting.
And it's called Divorce Proof Your Life. That's
Good.
what it is. So I'm going to keep people. Me and Ashley got married. I got married at 25. She's 2 years older than me. So she was 27. When we got married, she was still working on her master's. But she came in, Ashley's very talented, so she came in with zero school debt into our relationship because she got full ride at soccer at University of Florida. And then Concordia University recruited her to be one of their soccer coaches, paid for her master's program.
Cool.
As part of it, but we got married. I was 25. I had a house, but I fell into that trap, which was, you can only put 5% down, but yet your payment is $3,800, for your mortgage. So it's that California new home buyer thing. And I just think anyone young, you need to really, because I meet people all the time, in California new home buyer, I only need to put down 2%. It's like,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
but your monthly is going to be double what an average mortgage is. And that can get you in a lot of trouble. And that's what happened with me. So my mortgage was like over half of my paycheck. So when we first got married, we struggled, financially, not in a deep dependence way, but it was definitely like no vacations, no furniture, can't go out to eat that much. So it was definitely like that. And I remember about a year into our marriage when I finally was able to get Ashley a bed frame for our bed because we just slept on a mattress. She cried and said, "Thank you so much." Like it meant so much to her. And so I wouldn't change that. I don't think I needed to have necessarily everything that we needed in the house.
Struggle.
The struggle made us stronger.
Character.
It made us be budget wise. It made us be responsible. We had great older siblings in our life, like Nathan and Sanaz, who there were a couple times we were financially upside down that month, and they just being close to us knew it, and they called us and said, "Hey, we want to help you guys out this month." And we just had great relationships that helped us, and it made us depend on the Lord in a very healthy way, not an irresponsible way. And but if I went back, I would have definitely advised myself to just be more financially conscious, be more aware of your finances, both of you guys. But in the sense of where the era we got married, I was 25, had a home. By the time we had Matthias, which was 3 years later, we were great. We didn't have, we were able to buy him the bed that he needed, and we were able to give him, everything that he needed, and Thomas. So it felt that impetuous part that really makes marriages struggle, which is taking care of the kids and how are we going to be able to cover their costs, and because people don't realize that financial hit becomes big when you start having kids, and that becomes a big nail in your marriage. Like that was the part we didn't have. Like by the time we were ready, I was 28 by the time we had Matthias, and she was 30. It was we were strong as a couple, that we could handle the difficulty to get, like him going to the doctors and us having to owe a ER bill or whatever. Like that didn't shake us up where, I'm calling my mom or dad or someone to bail me out, help me out, and then my wife look at me and be like, "Yeah, you can't. Well, what's going on?" Like, it's like, and we did that really as a team because she worked too, but there were seasons where I was busting my butt. I'd work, I worked at the church, but I also used to own a marketing company, so I would grind, and it allowed us to do the stuff we needed to do, and but it took a lot of work. So, I like our approach that we went with it, and to me, it's like whether it's a house, an apartment, it's just, to me, you should be able to stabilize and be stable because you have no idea how much the money is going to affect the relationship far more than anyone anticipates in a relationship. Did you find that, Jermaine? I mean, you got married. How old were you when you got married?
Oh, man, 20, just turned 22. So
did you really?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't think you got married that young.
Wow,
yeah, crazy.
You're like me, man. Wow.
Yeah, crazy.
Wow.
No, it's crazy. Yeah, because I'm probably I'm more closer to Caleb's experience with just grinding and struggling for a long time, and it wasn't until we just figured things out then we had a kid, and so it was like just the expense of having a baby boy was just money's just flying out of your account all the time, so. It was definitely.
I remember. I don't want to cut you off, but I want to say this to speak to it because it's the first time I would say it. Not too long ago, and you get paid fine as a youth minister.
Yes,
so I want to throw that out there to
yeah.
people that watch this. But your wife went through a season where she was let go, so you weren't making more money, and so you started driving Lyft, Uber, and late nights because you had a son, you had a newborn son, you had to pay the bills, you had to take care of your son. And I remember you already did it. You were already doing it. And a lot of people who may be new to the podcast don't know I'm a father figure to Jermaine's life. So have talked a lot of manhood stuff in his life over the years. And I remember you told me that you were doing that.
Yeah.
And I remember telling Ashley, what was going on. And she asked me, was I gonna bail you out? Like, was I gonna get involved and make sure that you didn't have to drive Lyft as someone who's a mentor father figure in your life? And I remember responding to Ashley, and I said, I think I even told you some of this, maybe you're not, you'll remember, but I said, Jermaine and Jasmine will look at these years as some of the sweetest years of their life, where they had to be in such unity financially and through her hardship of losing her job, that if I just bailed him out, I would rob them of the opportunity
for sure.
to be able to grind as a couple
Yeah.
and find themselves together stronger than ever.
That's
And
good.
so I don't want to take that from them, and in the future them just say, I remember the season, and then Pastor Adam came in, and man, he was a blessing. He really helped us out. It was more so, no, I'd put our son down, and I would drive to Orange County, and I would lift, and then I'd come and be a youth pastor the next day. Like, that's going to be, he's going to look at that, and you're not doing that anymore, thank God.
Yeah.
But it was like, you're going to look at that as a sweet season of work and heart, and as a man, you got to really look after your family, and your wife really got to make sure that you guys stayed unified and together. Like, that's a sweet season, even though, yes, you got married at 22.
Yeah, I think it was fatherhood more than anything, because I remember asking you, for my honeymoon, we had a family member who was going to help us out. They bailed out, and we had to book the honeymoon, and we didn't have all the money. So, Pastor Adam, you lended me the money for the honeymoon, and I paid you over a series of payments and stuff. So I remember that, and I told Jasmine before I made the decision, like, I know there's people in our lives that'll help us in this situation, but not until, like, I do everything in my own power to make sure we're okay. And that's why when I talked to you, I even told you, because I didn't want you to be offended. I knew even, like, you guys love me so much that why would you do that? I was afraid, and that's honestly why I never even asked you if I should go drive for Lyft, because I didn't even want you to say, no, don't do that or whatever. That's why when we first talked about it, it was like 1 a.m, and we were talking about your message or something, and you're like, what are you doing up? And I'm like, oh, I'm driving for Lyft right now. You're like, what? But I just remember, like,
and I
telling
immediately
you,
started asking, how much are you making a month? How much is it coming in? How much is it helping you guys? And I remember thinking, I could do that. I could give that to him monthly for a season, you know?
No, yeah,
and then
it
I
was-
thought, no,
yeah.
I'm not going to do that.
Yeah,
you
and
know?
I told you, I said I was like, you know, I didn't want to even tell you, because I knew, and I'm glad that things went the way they did, because there was no greater purpose in my life just to go and, you know, make it happen. Like, I feel so fulfilled.
Yeah, and I think
by
with the honeymoon, I mean, obviously, I you know, I'm not a fan of people getting married young, or people getting married without any financial responsibilities yet developed. But if you're gonna do it, it's like, then I'm gonna try to support you and have the most help you succeed in your relationship, even though it's not what I would prefer. And so for me, I mean, I remember what the honeymoon thing or whatever, it was like, dude, you got to go on a honeymoon, man. Like, it was just like, because, you know, couples go like, oh, we're going to get married and then we'll go on a honeymoon
later.
2 years from now when we can financially afford it. I'm
Yeah.
like, you shouldn't have gotten married if you got to wait 2 years to go
Yeah,
on a
it's
honeymoon
true.
so you
Yeah.
can financially afford it. So I'm like, if you're going to get married, like, at least let me help you, loan you this money, and I know you're going to pay it back, because I know he's a hard worker. And it's like, but you need to go and spend this time getting to know your wife and have fun and stuff like that. I still think that stuff's important. You know, I think the best thing you can do with your wife is still date her no matter what, you know, and have fun. Nathan's taught me that.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Heck yeah.
that's crazy.
I'm just kidding, yeah. No, it was an amazing experience. So, yeah.
You've
that's
been married
really
how
cool.
long now?
4 years.
4 years.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
4 years, so.
Right on. 4 years. Oh, you're 26.
Yeah, I'm always
27.
still
Oh,
disappointed
27.
in myself that I didn't marry Jermaine. He knows that, but I got
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Who married you?
Pastor Heron. Yeah. Which is, I told Pastor Adam the other day, one of the
Yeah.
best officiates for sure.
Yeah, whatever.
For sure.
Why didn't
Best
you
if
marry
it-
them?
I got invited by the president of Azerbaijan to go to his
Oh,
country.
I remember that. I remember that. Yeah.
Like this.
So I was asked to
Big
speak.
diplomatic.
Yeah, it was a big.
World
I mean,
peace.
I had Secret Service, and it was Christians, Muslims, Jews coming together for a religious symposium.
People
and
don't
all
know
of us
Adam was a
out.
part of the peace accords that took
Yeah,
place in
yeah.
Israel. He was
I mean, that was an element of
significant
it.
part of
Early on.
the Abrahamic Accords.
He was one of Trump's consultants.
Jared Kushner's boy.
Yeah.
I worked with their ambassador team who worked with.
You spoke at their like
yeah.
delegation and
I
stuff. It was
spoke
like
at
the
a delegation.
United Nations table or something.
Yeah. I mean, it was a crazy experience. I had Secret Service with me everywhere I went. If I left the hotel, if I wanted to, because they have big restaurant, they have regular chain stuff in Azerbaijan. It's right next to Iran, big oil company. People who are in Dubai, when they want to go and goof off, they go down to Azerbaijan, which is nearby, and so Like I remember specifics. Like we were driving, and I told one of my drivers I wanted a Starbucks, and what they did was they drove the car door up to the door of the Starbucks so no one could get in and out. And then Secret Service went in, and there was about 4 people in there. They went in the front of the line. They held the 4 people off in a corner where they could see them.
Wow.
And the door opened up and matched the Starbucks door exactly. So no one could get in, come in the car, in the building, and it was like a Sprinter van. So the Sprinter van, and then the Sprinter van opened up in the Starbucks door. And then I walked in, and then they're like, tell them your order. I told them my order. They gave it to me, and it's like, they're like, your money's no good here. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I go back in the Sprinter. At my Starbucks, we drive off. Like, that is some of the weirdest stuff I think any human could ever experience.
Yeah.
So that's what I was doing, and we went, and I
Sorry, Jermaine.
So that was-
That's what it was.
well, and I gave
Yeah.
Jermaine the choice. I called him and I said, "Hey, man, here's the deal. This is what I was invited to. If you want me to marry you, I'm there. If you agree that this is a great opportunity, then I will do it."
The ultimate gaslight,
And
dude.
no, I mean, I wanted the choice to be his
Yeah, it
because I
was
would have
great.
listened to it either way. And if he said, "No, it's really important that you be there," then I was going to be there. But he said, "No, I think you should do it." But though it was a great honor and it was really great, it was a great experience, whatever, all those things like that, I still would have preferred to have stayed back and did his wedding. So, I look back at it and I go, well, you learned. And now I know in the future, if there's someone like him in my life and they have something, then that's what I will prioritize even over the opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it was a big learning thing for me, myself. Even though if I got invited back again, I would totally do it. But there was I was on the news. There was a lot of propaganda involved because they have a lot of issues with what's Kim Kardashian? What's her race? Armenian.
Armenian.
So they have big
yeah.
beef with Armenian. So they had us on like Armenia's national news and their national news, and we were like laying flowers on grave sites of like generals who fought the Armenians, and
Yeah.
it was like, look at these Americans honoring our generals.
Yeah.
And they had camera crew. I was like, I'd see myself on the news at night, and I'd be like,
It's
oh,
empty.
I think I'm on a propaganda tour. Like, I was like,
Yeah, it
oh,
could be, yeah.
but I didn't
They're
speak the
using
language,
you.
so I didn't know what was happening. So, but I spoke at the symposium. It was great. It was fun. Great experience. Yeah.
Well, thanks, Chelsea, for bringing up that great topic.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Relationships.
Good.
Anything else? Anything else that you want to add to the relationship discussion? Some of the things we talked about. I think our listeners, maybe from a single woman's perspective, might
No.
glean some.
No, I think in hearing you guys, like for the single people, there are good men and women out there. You just gotta open your eyes and be open to them not being fitting exactly what you think you need or want rather than what you need. And that's what I'm learning in this season. Like what I want in a man, in talking to those that I trust, might not necessarily be what I need. It's just a preference. So opening up my eyes
Yeah.
to different men.
Yeah.
And so when I go on like a first date, like for the most part, like I will go if I feel like the guy's not going to kill me or anything like that, and he's like a solid guy, I will go on a date. I will be open. They don't have to be a 9 or 10 on the scale. They don't have
Okay.
to have all that money. I will go on the date and be open. But one thing I'm learning and recognizing, as hearing, I think specifically you guys, is what people are getting married later in life, period. So you have the pool, the American pool, but you then have the Christian pool, which makes finding somebody much harder when you add the layer of faith in there. It's so small.
Right.
And so naturally we're getting married later. And so for me, as the confident person who does have a job, I do want my own house, regardless if I have a man or not. I do.
Yeah.
Not because I don't want a man to give me a house, but
Right.
I'm not going to wait until I'm 35 to live the life that I want to live until I find a man.
Well, I would advise my daughter
Which is
to
where
live
Sanaz was
how
at.
you're living. Yeah.
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 Like set your mind to be an independent woman.
Right.
And if you develop a relationship with a man you want to marry, you marry.
Right.
But look for these qualities. He should have these qualities. But yeah, like don't just sit around like just like Snow White
Living
or
with
one of
mom and
these
dad.
one of these
Yeah.
Disney
For
princesses
sure.
just waiting for Prince Charming. Yeah, you got to
For
get
sure.
to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
like
we're
what
saying-
you were, just in pursuing the woman or pursuing the man. Like that's not what you knowing you. Yes, you do know your calling. You do know your purpose. You're on track towards that. You're walking in it. You have the goals and desires. And yes,
Yeah.
like Caleb was saying, yes, it's much easier single. So that's why during this time,
That's why I vacation by
go
myself.
to vacation by yourself. Like I love it. Go to dinner
100%.
by yourself. Go to
Yes.
coffee by
Yeah.
yourself
Yes.
because you're enjoying that season of your life.
Yes.
You're enjoying life altogether, but you're still working and walking in that calling and purpose. And then like yes, we have faith to believe that the spouse will come. That's exactly how I met Sanaa. I was
Yep.
on track for that, and God
And
brought
it's
her in
not
my
that
life.
Sanaz didn't want a husband. Sanaz was just a driven woman
Yeah.
who
Sure.
had these assets in this life. So I think those single men
Yeah.
who might be listening to all of this wisdom, if a woman is confident, independent, has her own stuff, do not rule it out as she doesn't want a man. She doesn't have one yet. I'm that person. Where
Yeah.
I don't think most men. Here's my problem. And Caleb may disagree with this, but a lot of the guys I talk to, it's just there aren't a lot of godly, righteous, Christian, responsible men. Or the world standard would call them an alpha male. And, the alpha male is the type of person that has leadership and takes charge and is responsible and all those things. I mean, I would put that into a righteousness, Christian, moral sense, responsible sense. But in the sense that I really don't know a lot of men who fit that script.
100%.
So unfortunately, I think there are a lot of men who are looking for the wrong thing. So when I talk to single women, and to be honest, though, there's not a lot of women who are
Yeah, it's the same case with
attractive
women.
in the way that a man would find something attractive. And so to me,
There
the
aren't
shoe
a
is
lot
on
of
both sides.
Sarahs and there aren't a lot of Abrahams.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. And so they're
Yeah.
both looking for something that neither of them are willing to clothe themselves in. And so the woman is looking for this Christian, godly, responsible man, and he's not clothing himself in that. And then the man is looking for this woman who has a certain modesty to her, a certain respectability to her, a certain
Submission.
a certain submission,
Yeah.
a demeanor,
Respect.
Because my wife is very aggressive and loud and commanding and very, very opinionated, but next to my leadership and under my covering, she becomes very docile and
Yeah,
very,
right.
many
I've
people
seen
that know
that.
her go,
That's
let me
true.
talk to Adam, let me
Right.
first
That's very
approach
true.
Adam. And it's like the moment she steps away from me, it's like her natural byproduct personality
That's
comes
true.
out, which is very aggressive and opinion.
Yeah.
But with me, it's very, let me let Adam speak. And it's not because I've commanded that or anything. It's because
She respects you.
she respects
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
I really pursue the Lord, and she respects my time I spend with God, and she respects the decisions I make. And so to me, it's like, so when I talk to women in the church and they're like, where's all the good Christian single men? I'm like, I'm going to be honest. There's not many, I'm not going to play this front like they're everywhere. They're not the way that not anyone I would co-sign on.
Yeah.
And I always find it kind of an honor. And it's happened a lot over the years where a lot of single girls and guys who didn't really have fathers in their life will come to me and say, hey, can you hang out with this person I'm dating for a little bit, hang out with us, and I'd love your 2 cents, because they recognize, like, I don't want to be in the flesh in this dating process, but I also was never really taught what I should be looking for and what. And a lot of times I go, man, that's a good guy, that's a
Yeah.
good girl. You should really tie that person down, and they're like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna do that. Or other times I go, man, I have concerns, but I'll let you figure those out. But I have concerns,
Yeah.
and it could come from assortment of reasons, right? It could come from, the way maybe she's trying to perceive herself on social media, or maybe the way he's speaking about someone when we're, out at a dinner and I hear a lot of anger about how he was brought up, or a lot of this. I go, hey man, that's a red flag. He's got a lot of stuff he's trying to prove, and you're going to be just in the way of what he's trying to prove in life, and he's going to run over you. Like there's just a lot of different commanding reasons on why a relationship may or may not work. And we all have little deviations of what we ultimately find attractive. But I think as Christian believers and as people who really want relationships to work, there are key fundamentals that should be in, like, your book, your prayer journal, your notes or whatever, that go, hey, these are some
Yeah.
standards I'm gonna set. And if that person don't really fit those standards, I'm gonna move. I had that when I was dating Ashley. I mean, I went out on multiple dates with girls, and one of my biggest personal standards was I wanted to marry a woman who had purpose in life. You know, like because I would go on a couple of dates with girls, and girls would be like, I'd be like, "What do you want to do?" You know,
Oh, that's a good point.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't. What are you going to college for? I don't know. I'm doing painting right now, and I don't know. I just, you know, and I think if I was putting it in a 2023 sense, it's the, you know, I don't know. I might, you know, create an Amazon dropship site, or I don't know. I got a makeup TikTok, and I'm, you know, doing makeup, and maybe that'll take off. It's just like, to me, I'd be like, so you're 27, and you know, like that. But that was important to me.
Well, the problem with the problem with women, the problem with men is obvious. The problem with women now, women in our culture, is the career is priority. And so I would encourage any young man or any man looking for wife material, marriage material, her family, her husband, and her children need to be the priority. If her career is the priority, you're in trouble. And so it's not that a career isn't attractive. It's not that she shouldn't have a career. She shouldn't have a purpose in life, that like a career, you know, an interest. It's what's her priority. And
yeah, but I think in the dating phase, that would be a turnoff for a guy. Like if I was dating Ashley and I said, "Hey, what's your purpose in life?" and she was like, to be married and have a kid. That works in MacArthur's, you know, in the Puritan circles of the Presbyterians. But I'm speaking of the dating phase. I'm not talking about like you have to perceive this.
In the dating
well,
phase,
I'm talking about.
She's like, I'm waiting to prioritize
well,
you as my husband.
You're talking about who you're going to get
like,
married. No, I'm talking about when it comes to marriage material. Because when you're dating, you're looking for marriage material.
Right.
We're talking from a Christian. We're not talking secular perspective, but Christian perspective. You date to marry. And so if you're looking for marriage material, that's one of the things that as a man you need to discern in the woman that you're going to potentially marry is what's more important, her career or having a healthy family,
how was the
rearing
conversation
children.
between you and Sanaz when you guys had those conversations of like, she said she'd be willing to leave her job and all those things. How was that conversation?
So if I'm think back on the spot, I mean, definitely from what Caleb was saying, I mean, it was definitely navigating conversation. Like, do you desire to have kids? Like, okay, you know, so you're navigating these conversations. What does that look like? And so, like Caleb mentioned, like I was dating with the purpose of marriage, you know, having not dated much. And so I definitely wasn't just dating to just date, you know, it was like, okay, if God's bringing this woman into my life, I'm going to be very purposeful to, when I take her out, to navigate conversations. So we were navigating deep conversations on the first date. Yeah. You know, so part of that was that conversation. Tell me, what do you do for a living? What does that look like? Where do you see yourself as in the future? So, you know, she was a high school counselor at that time, you know, so she's like, I could see myself in that, but I think greater than that, I think God has a calling for me to work with young women. And I desire, you know, to write a book to help young women and work with them in that capacity. So I'm hearing and I'm navigating and I'm massaging. So she has a career, but she sees that maybe God has something else for her, but ultimately she spoke a lot to the vision of a family and having kids and raising kids. And so I navigating those conversations, okay, what could that look like in our household if obviously you know what I do in working in ministry and being a pastor, how could you come along and support me? Yeah. How could you potentially work in ministry one day with me? But from what Caleb is saying, I think that I don't think it's necessarily a negative that a woman desires to have a career or is in a career and focusing on the career. I think it's navigating the hard conversations of what does that look like, though, when we were to get married. Because like Adam was saying, like if they were like, I just want to bear 10 kids, you know, and we were on a date, I'd be like, okay, that's not. Well,
I'd be like, because we live in California, like, I can't afford that you just do that.
No,
you know, like
jumping. That's not what I'm saying. Like 1 or 2, 3 kids,
but that's what I'm looking for on purpose, because I can't afford for one stay-at-home mom. If I wanted,
she should work.
To comfort it.
I'm talking about priority.
That's the purpose
because
I'm looking for.
Because the current women of our day are taught to place career over your husband and over your children, and that's where a lot of marriages fall apart.
I don't think a lot of marriages fall apart in that area. A lot of the couples I'm talking to, I rarely talk to a wife that's like, he won't let me go and work or whatever. It's a lack. It's a lack within the marriage, number one, of communication.
No, but I'm saying it's a lack of respect. So here's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
A woman of today is fine. Now, I'm not going to submit to my husband. I'm an independent woman, but she's going to submit to her boss, who's most likely a man. She's going to submit.
Those
she's going
are
to
single. A lot of those women are single women.
Well, no. This is a lot of marriages.
Women that's like, I'm not submitting to my man. It's because
this is a lot of marriages.
But a lot of it is because the man is not leading.
No, but
it's
you're
because
right.
He's not leading.
You're right.
She
but there's just as much equal. There's just as much equal blame that needs to be placed on the woman, and that's the problem. I think that's the problem. I think that's the problem with a lot of churches and a lot of speakers nowadays, because we're afraid to offend women, and I think that's a problem, because I think a lot of men are feeling alienated, and where I think we do a really good job. Let me do what I know, the church. Mm-hmm. I think pastors, preachers do a really good job of convicting men of their sins and telling them to be better men. But we don't do enough because men have certain temptations to sin that we're really good at convicting men of. But women also have very specific temptations unique to them that we hardly touch, because we're afraid to offend women. We're afraid of the backlash. When you see Father's Day sermons, it's all about do better, men. You need to be better. You need to do better. You suck. I mean, I'm exaggerating, and women's, it's like, oh, you're so precious, oh, you're so wonderful, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just putting up an illustration.
Adam, you're so precious.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Dude, just
no,
tell me I suck.
No, that's I agree with you. I agree with you. As a man, I don't want to hear that I'm amazing. Yeah. I think women, they should hear that. They need to hear that, but what I'm saying is, I'm just drawing that as like an illustration of what I see as a problem in our society, especially male leaders in churches and pastors, because that's the world I know, but even just in general in media and everything, is that we're really good at bashing men. We're really good at, we all know how men suck and all the issues men have, but we're never told the other side of the coin, and how women contribute to the breakdown of families, the breakdown of a home, equally that men do. The Bible says that it's better to live in the corner of a house than with a quarrelsome wife. A lot of men live in houses with quarrelsome wives. We never talk about that. We never want to touch that. We just want to say, oh man, it's your fault. You're not being a good enough leader. Well, no, like women have issues that they need to be convicted of and reproved of as well. And that's all I'm saying.
But in the dating phase, and I understand what he was saying, for me, I think that there's a picture painted that if a woman's priority is career, is work, whatever, building something for herself in the dating phase, that she then will not prioritize her family because that's her current priority. For me, I can't prioritize something that I do not have. So I'm not going to prioritize a husband or my kids because I don't have that right now. So right now, my priority is building a life for myself.
I agree with you.
But when my husband comes, my priorities will shift.
Absolutely.
What I'm saying is, in a lot of these conversations, a lot of podcasts, a lot of these men that I talk to, because a woman has prioritized her career, you're not going to, I need a woman that prioritizes my kids. We don't have them yet. We haven't even gone on a date.
No, I agree with that. It's all a mindset. You're fishing.
That,
you're fishing for the mindset. Like what are we dating as a Christian man or woman? You date to marry. I'm not presenting a secular advice here because I'm a Christian pastor. I'm a Christian leader, and so I have the guidelines of the Bible. You date to marry. So yes, I want my daughter to be pursuing a career and not waiting for a man, 100%.
Yeah.
But I'm going to sit down with her and I'm going to tell her, the moment, honey, that you want to start dating and you're interested in marriage, these are the things that need to be your priority, and your mindset needs to start shifting if you want to be in marriage. Now, like I said, if you want to be single, you're going to have an easier life. You're going to have more freedom, and that's great. Like that, I'm not saying that a woman's only purpose is to bear children and to respect her husband. I'm saying that a married woman's greatest purpose is to bear children and to submit to her husband. But a single woman has that freedom. But as a man looking for a wife that is going to be a woman that he can spend the rest of his life with, that he can enjoy, that he can love, and that he's not going to, he, as a Christian man, you need to make sure that your wife places the priority on the children and the husband. And that's where a lot of breakdown on the woman's side of things comes in, because she's willing to submit to her male boss for 8 hours a day, but she comes home and all she does is complain, and all she does is belittle, and all she does is put down her husband, and she won't submit to him, and she won't respect him. And so that is a real problem. And so, I think that men need to, they need to look for that in a woman they're dating that they want to marry. They need to ask her, what's your priority? Is your priority your career, or is your priority building a family? So that when you're a grandmother, you have offspring, and you have family that you can be proud of, and that can surround your funeral, and all of the wonderful things that comes with motherhood. That needs to be the priority, I think, for a man looking for a woman. And I'm coming from a Christian traditional perspective, so I'm not claiming to come from a secular perspective. If I wasn't a Christian, if I was a secular man, I would have different advice. I would say it doesn't matter. You don't have to get married to have children. You just enjoy each other. You fool around. You live together. Don't get married. You sleep with each other to figure out if you're sexually competent. Live with each other for a couple years before you get. I'd say all the typical secular, but focus on you. You're the most important thing. Don't let a man bring you down. Don't let a man. And I.
Yeah, I think that's a dynamic, but I do see that it is very pressuring on women in the sense of, because I hear an aspect of what you're saying that is very competent of what a woman needs to be able to say, but on the same fixed position, then can a woman say that then you have to own a home, you have to be financially responsible? If I'm gonna
absolutely,
but Jermaine couldn't do that, so then that means that Jasmine shouldn't have married Jermaine. You couldn't do that, so that means Ashley shouldn't have married you.
That's what I'm saying. I regret getting married as young as I was, because I went through struggle, and that's what I said. I regret it, and I wouldn't advise my children to go down my path.
Yeah, I understand that. I get that. But I think in the aspect of the pressure of what was like, hey, this needs to be your full on. It's like, well, then as a man, what are you going to do?
1,000,000%
on the end of the bargain.
But we know that. We talked about that. Yes,
we talked about it, but society doesn't know that. Society doesn't do that. Most men I know don't do that.
Well, they don't, but we kind of...
Most men,
but I agree with you. I
know you agree, but I'm saying...
I am presenting the side of the coin that we rarely hear. That's what I'm saying. I am not saying what we have said and what I have affirmed, what you just said. All I am presenting the other side of the coin that you're typically not going to hear. That you normally are not going to hear that side of the coin.
Most traditional, in what you're saying in a traditional Christian aspect. I hear that on many traditional Christian aspects. I mean,
I just think the spirit of the age, you're not going to hear that. You're not going to hear that in your biggest mega churches. You're not going to hear that in the spirit of the age is not going to put equal... equal blame on the woman as the man.
I'm not talking about lackluster, biblically, lacking, but mega churches that I know that preach the Bible. I mean, they're preaching traditional gender roles, traditional marriage roles. Their men's and women ministries are teaching those things. That's the thing. I mean, I think there is a light in culture.
I disagree, but I disagree.
Yeah,
I just don't think it's as prominent. I don't think it's given equal. Equal opportunity. Women want equality. Okay, let's have equality. No, equal.
I mean, you go to a lot of women's conference. I mean, outside a lot of things. I mean, I think it bears responsibility.
And there's not a lot of women who are like trying to be these crazy professionals. A lot of women. I want kids. I want to submit. I want that. I don't have that yet. In the meantime, I do want to enjoy my life. So most women do want to have kids. Most women do want to have a husband. Most women do want to stay home. Yeah. So I don't think that's the issue.
But priority.
I think what you're saying is, if there's an expectation to bear kids and take care of the home, okay, well, what are you doing then at this point? Can you take care of?
You're 100%. Nobody's not. I'm not.
Yeah.
Nobody's saying that.
But also me and my wife
Of
having
course,
a
the
dual,
man is ultimately the leader.
Dual income,
If the buck
but we have a
falls,
dual
yeah.
income
Dual income.
home. So
Which is you're seeing
I'm
that
not gonna
way
expect
more-
I'm not going to expect Ashley to hold the whole burden of
the
rearing these
kids.
kids and these family when I'm also asking her to bear the burden of some of these finances.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So
That's
I need.
fair.
That's where I think that if a man comes and says, I have these expectations, I have this, you also have to be able to have the expectations that you're doing your part in the house. I think many women are divorcing men first because they're getting fed up, many of them, not all, fed up at the lack of involvement that men have
Right.
in the home,
No,
in
I
the
disagree.
kids.
I disagree because you're putting all the blame on the man. It's a 50-50.
Bro, look at the statistics.
It's a 50-50 though.
Look at the statistics.
I know they're going to have their excuses.
But
All I'm
over
saying,
fi-
the
that's not an
woman,
excuse.
the wife is
You
just
can
as
give us
much to
statistics, I
blame
can't.
as the man. No, I'm saying what I'm
70%
saying.
of marriages
what I'm
end in
saying
divorce
is,
if a man doesn't help in household
what
chores.
what
That's
I am
a statistic.
no. What I'm
I mean-
what I'm saying is it's 50-50. That's what I'm saying. You're saying 75% of women initiate divorce because it's the man's fault.
No, I
all
didn't
I'm
just say
saying
that.
It's,
I didn't just say that.
Yeah,
Don't
they
put words in my mouth.
I know
I
they
didn't say
have
that.
complaints against the man.
I
but
said
what
many
I'm saying
will because
is,
the men do not. Many will because the man did not do his function yet, but yet the weight of what the woman has to responsibly bear has been put on all of her. The household, the family, the kids, and he thinks as long as I go to work, but yet in most American homes, she's going to work too.
As well.
So it's going to end in a divorce. Most women are going to be fed up with that if that's the average family dynamic. And it is in America. The amount of stay-at-home mothers in America are minimal today. So of course.
It's a luxury.
So let me
That's
say
gonna
that. Let
happen.
me say this:
It
the
is a
church's
luxury to be a stay-at-home mom.
divorce rate is just as high as the world's. So my question
Yeah.
is, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying, are we not communicating? Because we've been communicating a certain message for decades now in the church. Obviously, it's not landing. Obviously, we need to do better. And all I'm saying is,
But I don't think it's women go just watch your kids,
okay,
do your job at home, and
I'm talking
watch
about
your
the church.
kids.
I
don't think that's
the
the
world is
answer.
the world, and the world is going to be the world. I'm talking about the church. The church is just as bad as the world. And so, if my boy married a Christian woman, that does not increase his statistical chance of having a great marriage than if he married a worldly woman. That's just stats. So, in the church, all I'm saying is, what is the message? What are things that need to be said that we are not communicating that could possibly improve those statistics? That's what I'm saying when I emphasize
Well, of the 50%,
the
what is
role
the
of
main reason
the
why
responsibility
people are getting
women.
divorced? Of the 50% that do get divorced, what was the
Well, the highest is always
Finances.
and infidelity. So
I have
those
a-
are the
yeah.
two. Those are the two strong points. So to me, those and the infidelity now intros a bunch of reasons on why, but finances, infidelity are the two biggest ones. Infidelity arises from usually the statistics proves, and I've shared a message on it. Infidelity rises mostly from your past and what you bring into your marriage. That's what will pursue you into infidelity into your marriage. That will ultimately end in divorce. Finances too is also where and when you get married and how that financially aspect. So to me, a lot of the divorces happen on what happens before you get married and not necessarily inside
the marriage.
of the
Yeah,
marriage.
that's-
It's
But
it's
ultimately,
the
it
foundation
boils
that's
down
built
to the
at the
root
beginning.
of character, and that's the thing. Ultimately it's the root of character. And so, in the church, I think those are the manifestations of a deeper character issues that men have. That is built around the culture, climate, the age that we live in, the spirit of the age. And women also have temptations that come from the spirit of the age and the culture in which they live in. And so I'm interested in the root character, because if you change the character, then a marriage can go through hell, they can go through anything, and they can come out of it stronger and remain faithful. And so that is what I try to think
But to me,
through when it comes to
maybe I'm not hearing you right, but to me, experience develops your character.
No, what I'm saying is the church's divorce rate is just as high as the world's, And
but
so,
also the standards and conduct
yeah,
of living
but-
of
no,
a
I
Christian
agree.
in the
I
church
agree. Yes,
match
yes,
the world
yes.
as well.
You put them through Dave Ramsey. You help them with their finances. They'll get better. You give them practical tips and
I'm
have.
not talking about that, but I mean, yeah, Dave Ramsey would help.
No, what
people's
you're saying is
finances, but-
finances, and what you're saying is infidelity. So what I'm saying is, so in order to address those issues within the church, what are the character? What is the sins that the men, the husbands are dealing with, and the wives? That's all I'm saying. And the wives deal with that contribute to them abandoning ship by sleeping with another man, sleeping with another woman, committing adultery, divorcing because of finances. What is that? Those root character sinful temptations that they're giving into. That's all I'm saying when I say we should be an equal opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are. I think a man should bear a lot of the responsibility. I think Adam held the blame for eating the apple, and he tried to transgress it onto Eve.
I agree,
think
but
that,
it's never talked about. The woman is never talked about. I'm sorry. And I'm speaking in generalities. I know I'm speaking in generalities, and I'm exaggerating when I say never, but I'm just saying it's never. The other side of the coin is never talked about. I don't think it is. I could be wrong.
I think women get pretty beat up on social media. I think men get pretty beat up on social media.
I'm not talking about social media. I'm talking about
a secular
within.
approach.
I'm just
Well,
talking about within
church culture. Like if you go to all these women's, which I've gone to hundreds. My goodness, we are being taught and shown and put a mirror in front of us of how we can better support. Not we, because I'm not married, but support men. I've gone to a lot of men's or marriage conferences as I've traveled the world. And
keep talking, Chelsea.
in these marriage conferences, those conversations are being had of yes, men need to get better at this, but women, here's a mirror, take a look at yourself. That's part of the conversation. Now, maybe not on a.
But the things that I specifically mentioned, are those talked about? I don't think they are. As far as I see Lisa. I see I won't name names, but I'm a lion woman. And the message is just as feminist as the world's, and that's fine. That's great. Women should be built up. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I don't see a lot of messages of deep conviction of specific temptations that women fall to, and convicting of those sins.
The average conference is having Jackie Hill Perry preach today. The average conference, and Jackie Hill Perry is going hard on women. There are preachers out there, and a lot of the women's conferences has 6-7 speakers. I have heard a lot of them talk about the frailty of women today. I mean, I don't think they're flowery and glittery.
They're not.
And I mean, you could find a rare use case, and say, oh well, look at this one. Look at what Hillsong Conference did. They just had there's one thing, but the average and the pastors I know who lead mega movements.
Yeah,
I mean, I hear who they have. I see who they have. I listen to the content, and I'm like, yeah, these women, they're being checked on.
But
stop
it's one thing to
social
have a
media
conference.
And what are you
it's
doing?
one thing to have a
it's like-
conference. It's another thing to weave it into. Weave it into application in your Sunday messages consistently.
I think the average woman who preaches, they come with that emphasis. I just don't think it always.
Well, the
happens
average
on a
woman who
consistent-
preaches. That's my point. The men that are preaching, because they are afraid to offend women, they don't give equal.
They
tell.
I think
they're
in my
comfortable.
preaching, I convict women like I do.
Okay, but I'm not
men.
talking about. I'm talking about.
I know who you're talking, but I'm just saying
talking
if you
about in
analyze
general.
a use case of what we know, I hear it.
Yeah.
I'm just using us as an
Okay.
example. I hear it. I'm just not going to consistently lead towards women in a practical application because I'm not a woman. Yeah, but I'm gonna
See, that's the problem.
You know,
That's the problem. That's
Yeah.
the problem. But that's the problem is that you.
But what if a woman got on
what if
stage and
we
said,
got
"Hey,
on
you
stage
men
and
need
we're
to
That
start
happens all the
talking
time. That happens all the time. What are you talking
I
about?
don't think so. I
But
don't
that's
think
my
so.
problem,
I
though.
don't
What
think
you
it
just
happens
said, though,
Yeah.
that's my problem. Men are afraid because, I'm not a woman. Yeah, but you are
No,
the
that's not what I
spiritual
just
leader.
said.
You are
That's
the
not what I
the
just said.
leader.
I
No,
just
you
said
said
the
I don't.
bias,
I don't.
The bias is going to be male driven because I'm a male. I
that's
didn't
what
say,
I'm saying. There shouldn't be a bias. There should be equal opportunity.
Of course, there's going to be a bias.
No,
I'm a
because
male.
when you apply, no,
Like,
but
of course,
you're
there's
the leader
there's an
though.
intrinsic bias.
No, but
That's
when
a
you're
super
when
liberal
you're
statement
when
to
you're
assume
no,
that
no,
I don't have a bias.
No,
We all have a bias.
No.
Everybody has a
You're putting
bias.
words in my mouth. Okay, I was guilty of putting words. You're putting words in my mouth. When a man who is the leader of a church, he is called by God to make application of the text for encouragement, for edification, for exhortation, instruction, and righteousness. What I'm saying is when that happens in the Sunday message given by the man, when it comes to the application portion, after the exposition, after the illustration portion, when it comes to the application portion, the overemphasis is on telling men how much they suck. Okay, I'm exaggerating, but this is so how much they suck, how much they need to do better, how much they lack in this.
I think it is
but
a
there
strong
is not,
exaggeration.
And I'm saying you need to know your crowd. So you need to know it. What I'm saying is you need to apply to singles. You need to apply to married couples. You
Right.
need to apply. But what I'm saying is the demographic that's often untouched because they're afraid is addressing specific temptations that women, specifically wives, go through that contribute to the divorce rate that is just as bad as the world's. And that's what I am saying.
Maybe so. I
can
just
attest
you
to
would
this.
have to give what?
Yeah.
I want to break this up a little bit because this was a thought. I want to give credence to what Pastor Caleb is saying. Growing up in the church, typically, maybe this kind of answers your question, Caleb. I hear a lot of that rhetoric that you're referring to more from boomers, which is it almost the rhetoric almost feels like, especially as a young man, when I hear this, it's like be more soft towards your wife. Yes, honey. Like if you ever get marriage advice from a boomer,
It's always-
they tell you the softest, weakest stuff.
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
go,
yeah,
man, when
right.
you were my age, you were making hard decisions, making your wife fall in place, right? And so like. I get maybe that's what you're referring to, Caleb.
Yeah,
where
that's part of
it's
it.
Weak,
Yeah.
it's telling the man to be soft
Yeah.
or be weaker. When I'm like, okay, and even what we brought up, my wife didn't want me to drive for Lyft. I said, this is what I'm gonna do. You're gonna stay home, but I can get another job. I can figure something. Go apply for jobs, whatever. But right now, this is what's gonna happen, and I feel like if I kind of submitted to boomer advice, I thought we weren't going to boomer bash anymore.
Yeah, but I don't know. The average boomers, I know, they would have told you, Jermaine, get your butt out in them streets and start
Yeah, but
working.
then they
I
go,
mean,
but
if you
what
would
does
have
your
talked to
wife
my dad,
want?
if you would have talked to
Yeah.
Pastor Kenny, if you would have talked to
No, well, it's the whole
like,
it's the
they
whole
would've
happy
told you,
wife,
get your-
happy life
Yeah,
slogan.
that's it.
No, which came from a Jewish rabbi. Okay. But that's
it's-
besides the point. But
That's a humorous truth. I mean,
No.
it's a humorous statement that
Well,
has relative truth to it.
let's let
you
our
know, like,
audience judge.
you know?
Me and Adam
That's fair.
clearly have different
That's fair.
different perspectives on what churches are communicating. Me and Adam have different perspectives. So let's let the audience judge.
Yeah.
I think we both made our cases.
go in the comments
Our
and let
cases
us know.
clear.
Yeah, let us
I
know.
think we both made our cases clear. So yeah, I mean, but it was a good conversation. I had fun.
It was emotional. but if people don't know, these are our average non-filming conversations. So,
Yeah.
sometimes we tone it down on the podcast. This would have gotten much more heated in a non-filming sense, probably.
This is the average.
There would have been stronger
average-
Let
words.
it get heated.
This would have been stronger words used.
Expletives.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
A lot more.
Anyone got any final comments? And Caleb and I will not comment for the rest of the time until this is over.
Pastor Nathan,
Anyone got last comments?
Pastor Nathan, final comments.
Final comments.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let's just do this real quick before he does the final comment. We're going to hear from the comments of the audience, but just for fun's sake, we're going to go around to each person that isn't Adam and Caleb, and you're just going to say, are you going to say, are you team Adam or are you team Caleb?
Can we
we're gonna-
Nobody's gonna be
Probably-
my team. Come on, I'm
Sure
the.
they will. This is a free, open society. This is
Oh, gosh.
the podcast
Let's
is a
start.
free,
I'm
open
the one
society.
wasn't in it.
Wait, can you paraphrase in short sentences what you're each
Oh,
complaining
gosh.
about?
Oh, man.
Didn't you?
Well,
Didn't you
I expected that one.
If I understood
Wow.
correctly,
What did you Understand?
so that the church doesn't amplify as much as how they do with the men with the sins. They don't amplify as much
Thank
with
you.
the women.
She got
and
it.
So
that's
wait,
true.
so
She got
how
it.
much church do you
Thank you,
listen
Nancy.
to? Are you listening to a global perspective or just a
The
Monday?
spirit.
Don't decredit
She's
her
listening to
now.
the spirit.
No,
Don't
just
try to
to
decredit her.
Yeah, it doesn't take
in order
much.
to have
How
a
much
church
church
context,
do
It's
I
the
listen
you have
spirit
to
of the
listen to what
age.
churches are
It's called
saying.
the spirit because you could put yourself in a what
If
do
you're
they
gonna
call
say
it?
church is,
What do they call it? An echo
know.
chamber. We're not talking about echo chambers. I'm talking about from stepping back, looking at the whole. That's my point.
Yeah, but I'm saying you
Because
have to.
if you could put
have
yourself
to,
in an echo chamber, you could say, yeah, the circles I run around with do this. But I'm talking about as a
that's what
whole.
I agree with you. I'm just asking Nancy.
As
Do
a
you
whole.
have a whole perspective? Do you have a
I mean, you
30,000
can ask
foot-
that to anybody. Does everybody here really listen to a bunch of churches?
I've been to
I
enough
listen to
conferences.
some.
If you
I listen
don't-
to
if you
Transformation.
don't,
I
you
listen
can't
to
say-
this
Well, and the
one.
Spirit bears
I listen
witness.
to podcasts from other churches.
All I'm
yes.
saying is,
the
if you
spirit
don't,
bears
you.
witness.
I'm
Yeah, but I'm
telling you.
telling you, I do. I do
So-
listen to other churches. So if I do, I'm giving you my perspective of
That's all I
as a
wanted.
whole.
That's all I wanted was
Me
an
As
too.
a
answer.
whole,
That's it.
this is
Yeah.
my perspective.
Gabriel.
That's it.
Fair.
Gabe.
Wow, this is heated, huh?
Open a can of worms.
I'm gonna get a shirt.
Chelsea's open a can of worms.
I'm gonna go with Team Adam.
Okay. I'm not showing up to your wedding.
Would you like to explain why, Gabe? Because Nancy did her explanation.
Well,
I need
don't
yours.
I can't speak on if we're gonna talk for churches. I don't know what will qualify being able to speak
Right.
broad enough. I can only speak for
Right.
our church, pretty much, because
Okay.
that's the majority
Fair.
of
Yeah.
what I listen to, and I think that's what majority of anybody will listen to is their local church. So with our church, I don't necessarily feel like there's a overemphasis on telling men to pick themselves up in like on a Sunday. I think it is general speaking, and I think anybody can generally feel like they're being called out on their sin and being called out on what they need to improve on. But I would agree with Pastor Adam where, yeah, there's a natural bias because he's a man to emphasize more on a man, not to completely not acknowledge women at all, but that's just naturally going to happen, and to ignore that would be dishonest, I think.
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair.
Okay.
Who else do we have?
Pastor
in
Nate,
Jeremiah.
Jermaine.
Jeremiah.
It's Pastor Day, yeah.
Jeremiah. Run to a mic. Run to a mic.
You don't have to explain. You can just yell it out. If you want to explain, you can.
No, I'm
'Cause we're gonna see the
Switzerland. I'm
comments.
neutral.
Switzerland. Get out of here.
No opinion whatsoever. Wow.
Jermaine.
Oh,
Empty playground.
Wow.
That's my
Who's
alarm.
Pastor Nathan's?
He didn't share his.
I would lean to Pastor Adam for Gabe's explanation too. My realm is more ALFC than it is the broader church. So from the perspective of ALFC, I think we do a good job at speaking to both sides. And so the capacity of, like Caleb is saying, women, I know Sanaz or an Ashley from the pulpit or even from a private sector is doing that to women within the body of our church.
They
So
do it to me. So
you know, and
yep.
so from a general platform, obviously that wouldn't. I think it's done on both sides, from either our dad, Pastor Diego, to any from even when Sanaza spoke on a Wednesday night to capacity, or you when you had the opportunity to speak, Chelsea. I mean, we're speaking broadly to both men and women, but I think individually it definitely happens within ALFC, and that's what I can speak to, at least ALFC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, fair.
It's good.
Who do we have last? Deanna?
More because of the fact
Wait, who
that
more?
Caleb.
Oh,
Pastor Caleb, because of the fact that we're focusing too much on male, female, when it's the leaders that need to lead and teach. So I shouldn't, if their obligation and their promise in front of the Lord is to guide their sheep, the sheep just need to be guided. It's not like, it comes from a leader's perspective. It shouldn't be.
I'm confused. So
They're-
are they doing it or are they not?
They need to. That's what
So
I'm
you're
saying.
not.
They're
So,
saying
for
you're
No,
instance-
saying
no,
they're
no, no. You
not.
can't say they need to. It's either are they doing it
Just
or
say
are
they're
they
not.
not.
They're
Not what they need to do. We
Say
a
they're
lot of
not.
people need to
And
do a
you
lot
would
of things.
include
Are they
ALFC in
doing it
that?
or are they not?
No. This is
Yeah.
worldly. We're great in that. We're great.
We're
in
not
that.
talking
well,
about
I mean, is
the
anybody
church.
really going to tear
criticizing
down
the
the
outside.
ministry they're currently?
No, but anyone.
I mean, you
that's
could
a
always say,
leader
"Oh,
needs
we
to
could
We could do
improve on
better.
this. We could improve."
would be
I think
honest.
that's fair.
I would be
You
honest.
shouldn't
You
be
know?
scared. If I'm a male, I should be able to still lead women. If I'm a lady, it's okay to lead them. And if that's what I signed up for as a leader, as a pastor, that's what their promise is to Lord, is to lead them and guide them.
Yeah.
So,
But are
I don't
churches
know why we're
doing
focusing
it?
on the gender.
Are they
think-
doing it?
General churches like speaking more to women.
Are churches Our pastors on Sundays going hard on the men and
This is
never
riveting.
touching the women.
No.
No,
Not
so
as
then
much as they need to know.
We're Sanaz. We need we're Sanaz and Ashley.
so they both would have went after you.
I know they would have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know they
Did we
would.
get everyone? I didn't even
We
do the
didn't get
count.
Jermaine.
I will just say this.
Hey, Sanaz, comment below what team you're on.
She listens to this every week.
I would say this. When I hear both sides, we obviously all agree there's a double standard on both sides, expectations, whatever. But I've been a victim.
Hey, somebody just got a lifting, bro. You gotta
I've
You gotta get out of here, bro.
I've been to the conferences.
Oh gosh.
I've been to the conferences where the pastor has wanted to have women empowerment, but it comes off as woman supremacy. And
Ooh,
that's
let's go.
So for that reason, I understand.
Name the
Caleb's-
conference or it didn't exist.
I'll
bro.
name it right now. I'll name it right now, but it'll be your friends, and I'm gonna get you in trouble. So no, I won't say it. But I'll just say that. So for that reason, I'm not saying we don't do a good. We definitely do a great job
Yeah,
in that area.
I didn't hear that from you. You don't have to add any caveats.
Team Caleb,
bro.
I'm sorry.
You answered already though, didn't you?
No.
No,
No.
I didn't.
Oh, he didn't.
I share
Jermaine
thoughts.
didn't say anything.
I share thoughts, but I
Well,
I didn't, I
actually-
didn't announce
Yeah.
my allegiance.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
yeah.
I'm just kidding.
That's
Yeah,
fair.
he did say it's your team.
All right. Well,
Wow.
We'll see what happens in the comments and on the
Yeah.
Instagrams. Nancy will give us.
I'll update you guys.
This
Detail
was
report in
like
2
a fresh and fit. This turned into like a fresh and fit
This
episode.
was great.
So yeah, let's see if we get some virality.
All right, everybody. God bless
All right.
you.